The story of Kingston Wharves is intricately interwoven into the fabric of Jamaica's economic life. For decades, the port has stood as a symbol of visionary nationalism and the embodiment of the audacious Jamaican entrepreneurial spirit that has driven the country's development throughout the course of history.
Kingston Wharves was an amalgamation of different wharf owners who came together in 1945.
In 1945, three pioneering businessmen, Charles Edward Johnston and Captain C. Brent List, founders of Jamaica Fruit and Shipping, and Louis Fred Kennedy of Grace Kennedy and Company, led a group of wharf owners in downtown Kingston to join forces to form one new port company, Kingston Wharves Limited, KWL.
Sir Alexander Bustamante was unionizing the port workers, and he was picking off the terminals, individual owners, one by one. So they felt, okay, maybe it's better we form one big wharf company, negotiate with the unions, and also there were efficiencies to be gained by combining together.
And the ships kept coming.
The Shipping Association of Jamaica was formed around that same time in order to negotiate for the ship owners, for the shipping agents, with the unions. It was a union of employers, and still is.
A major shift in the life of Kingston Wharves came in 1966, when the port company relocated from downtown Kingston to Newport West to occupy 56 acres of reclaimed land, comprising berths 5 to 9. There, Kingston Wharves would drop anchor, firmly plant its roots as it expanded its footprint.
When we moved to Newport West in 1966, Western Terminals owned berths 1 to 4. Western Terminals was owned by a different group of people, including the Matalon family, the Lascelles Group, Commonwealth Development Corporation, which is a UK assistance company. They owned 1 to 4. Kingston Wharves owned 5 to 9. And each berth had a shed on it. 9 warehouses on the front. Can you imagine that today, when you look out there and you see one warehouse left? So that makes a greater efficiency of movement, of handling of cargo, etc., etc. Today, Kingston Wharves now owns berths 1 to 9.
For nearly 6 decades after its establishment, the wharf was operated by Grace Kennedy and Company Limited. It saw a period of development, including growing its portfolio of shipping lines, effecting physical and operational improvements, and listing on the Jamaica Stock Exchange in 1995, among other achievements. Grantley Stevenson was executive chairman and CEO from 2003 to 2019. Presiding over a period of accelerated modernization and expansion, spanning the NCB and JP eras.
The main revenue drivers then were wharfage and a percentage of the storage. Berth 8 and 9 was derelict at the time. I got a design to rebuild berths 8 and 9 at $26 million. So naturally, it was a challenge to get the board to agree to make that kind of expenditure when the future wasn't that assured. The other challenge was getting financing. Only one commercial bank would even talk to us. We convinced them, we got the loan, and we built berths 8 and 9. The construction was completed in 2008, and that facilitated us getting into the transshipment business. When the transshipment business started growing rapidly, we focused on the car business. And by 2008 to 2009, we signed a 10-year agreement with Hogue to handle transshipment vehicles. And as time went on, we leased land from Tinson Pen to expand the car business, which has been a tremendous success.
But auspicious events would spark a paradigm shift and set Kingston Wharves on an accelerated growth trajectory. Between 2012 and 2014, the NCB Group, the major shareholder since 2004, sold its shares to the Jamaica Producers Group. This move gave the JP Group controlling shares in KWL and would define the company's development over the next decade.
We started looking at Kingston Wharves in 2011 and concluded the transaction in 2012. And what Jamaica Producers Group saw in 2011 was a strong, visionary management team led by then CEO Grant Stevenson. They had a vision for expanding the terminal, for deepening the infrastructure. But 2011 was a time of uncertainty. Jamaica had a debt exchange in 2010, followed up by another debt exchange to restructure our debt in 2013. So we were in the middle of this period in which there were concerns about the economic future of the country. So we had a company with a big vision on the one hand, but an environment of uncertainty. Its earnings in 2011, when we were looking at it, were about $350 million. The management team wanted investment because they wanted to pursue a big vision. Jamaica Producers has had a long relationship with Kingston Wharves. We traded with Kingston Wharves as an exporter of bananas. So we knew the company, we knew the management team, we had a long relationship, and we wanted to support the vision.
Prepared for the future on a solid foundation, Kingston Wharves has continued to consolidate its position as a leading gateway to the Americas, with connections to over 45 destinations. Kingston Wharves is mindful that it has not taken this journey alone, but knows its success and destiny are harnessed to the solid partnerships that it has forged over the years.
We're very pleased to have Seaboard as a partner with us. And because they're with us, we can take long-term decisions about capital allocation, knowing that they see the opportunities from the same lens that we see them. Kingston Wharves, from its inception, brought together stakeholders in the maritime sector. Until this day, that's a vital part of how Kingston Wharves looks at the opportunities and how it consults and who's in the boardroom and who's on the list of shareholders.
KWL's achievements are also direct result of its committed team who show up to make a difference every day.
It has been an awesome race thus far for those who have gone before. I took the reins in 2020 and the company continues to achieve many great successes. For example, in 2020, we've moved revenue by 50%. In 2020, it was $7.1 billion. Last year, we would have had our best year as a company, growing revenue to over $10 billion. We have seen the assets of the company growing tremendously, $60 billion in assets that's under the portfolio of Kingston Wharves. So I'm very pleased with that, and I take my hat off to that team because we have done reasonably well.
When a car ship arrives in Jamaica with 2,000 cars, and those cars have to be discharged one after the other in an efficient movement, and then stationed on the terminal, and then another ship comes and they want to pull 100 cars, 200 cars, 500 cars, those cars have to be located. Those cars can't be scratched by a wedding band. Those cars have to be planned. They have to have the documents. They have to have the keys. And the expertise to do this is profoundly valuable to Jamaica.
And the expansion continues.
We've been investing heavily in just improving the plan. So over the past 5 years, we'd have invested in excess of $70 million. 2 years ago, we have refurbished one of 9 berths, $30 million. Last year, we've added an additional $25 million, building out not just our terminal infrastructure, but our logistic infrastructure. And, as you would imagine, with a terminal like ours that continues to grow, we need new equipment. This year, for example, we're spending an additional $10 million in just buying new equipment, refurbishing the equipment.
An award-winning, multi-purpose port handling bulk, break bulk, and containerized cargo, KWL is also a reputable auto transshipment hub and a growing provider of logistics services. Generations of leaders have run their leg of the race, honoring the solid foundation and the awesome legacy that they carry. It is one steeped in a tradition of excellence and one that is ever propelling the company forward. undaunted as it pushes the boundaries into new territories and higher dimensions of performance.
The next phase of growth for Jamaica as a country and even the Caribbean region is into logistics. In fact, we've expanded our clientele. We have tourism, we're into electronics, we're into multi-units, we're into pharmaceutical. We're doing much of this 3PL, third-party logistics, by building out infrastructure, building technology, and of course, improving the competence of our people. And we do share the view of the government that Jamaica can become the fourth node in this logistics hub initiative.
Kingston Wharves has stood the test of time, navigating rough seas and intense storms, but has kept the ship steady and remains relentless in piloting the vessel safely to its destination.
My vision for Kingston Wharves is to continue our emphasis on innovation, operational efficiency, and securing a bright future for not just KW as a company, but Jamaica as a country.
The vision that the management team brought to us when they said, come on in, has actually paid off handsomely.
I believe that Kingston Wharves has a responsibility as a good corporate citizen to ensure that as we grow our profitability for our shareholders, we invest in the country that we do business in.